Welcome to Backstage 421, the musicians only podcast, with your host, author, and music lover, Charles Campbell. Charles will have an awesome array of guests from many genres of music, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. By the way, Ray Mattis is the composer of this awesome intro music.
Hit record and start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Backstage 421, the Musicians Only podcast. I'm your host, small town horror author Charles Campbell, and today I have a very special group of gentlemen. I stumbled upon their music on Facebook, actually, through a mutual friend of ours, Shannon Malloy. Shout out to her. And I listened to what they had, and I was blown the F away. And this band is called Swim the Witch. I've got their little sticker here, and I have their CD. And I will say the EP they have put out is amazing. And I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to let the guys introduce themselves and kind of give us a little background on, background on each of you and, how you put Swim the Witch together. So whoever wants to start, we can start with Michael, Chad, or Jim.
Okay, I'll start. My name's Michael. I know Chad from his previous band. I was in a band called Angels on Acid with my wife Jessica, and Chad at that time was in Haitian Hate Gods. However, before I even started Angels on Acid, I saw his band Voodoo play at a place in Charlotte called the Hungry Duck, I believe. And it was killer. It was one of the best. I was blown away that they were a local band. I couldn't believe they were from North Carolina. I didn't know that they were on Invisible, that they got signed with Martin's label, which to me was a big deal as growing up, like with my brother schooling me on industrial and things like that. Like, Ministry was always the go-to for us. I loved industrial metal. So to be able to work with Chad was really, really cool for me. And so, so we had Angels on Acid. I met Chad through Haitian Hate Gods, and we just formed a friendship, and it just kind of happened naturally with time. Yeah, it just kind of happened naturally with time. They're really Chad's songs. He's the main songwriter, and I kind of come in and help
make them better.
Yeah, do some production and reimagine the songs, and it's really the mutual partnership that makes it amazing.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into the songs on this EP. Man, I wish there were like 7 or 8 more, and we could call this thing a full album because every song was amazing. And I'm lyrically driven. I love listening to really good lyrics, and kudos to you, Chad, for the for the writing. Like I said, I'm a small town horror author, and you have a writing skill, my friend. I mean, all of the songs.
The lyrics all written by him.
The lyrics. Oh, you did the music.
Yeah, I just did. I just
gave okay. Well, you, Michael, I'll give you the right credit.
He's like a demo machine. This guy writes like 20 songs a day.
Okay.
I'm the exact opposite. I will focus on something until it's like there's nothing left. I'll just whittle it down until there's nothing. So it's kind of a good balance. He's just like, free creativity, where I'm more kind of like the scientist involved.
Well, I'm super excited. You guys are really, really, really good. And, I hope you have all the success in the world. So Chad, let's get into you a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your background and, what brought you into Swim the Witch.
So again, my name's Chad Wilder. I've been playing in bands like for, I don't know, probably longer than most of your listeners have been alive. My first real thing of success, I guess, was Voodoo. We were a 3-piece at the time out of Wilmington, and we just made a bunch of songs and sent them to a bunch of different labels, and ended up getting on Invisible. We opened for Pigface. That was our second show at Tremont Music Hall in Charlotte. It was pretty stressful because we didn't know really what we were doing. And then afterwards, Mark talked to us, and that's when we got signed. So that was really cool. We did a couple of US tours. We did a tour with Thrill Kill Cult, Chris Conley, Hansel and Gretel, and then we kind of broke up. Then I started another band called Haitian Hate Gods, and that's kind of where I met Jimmy here. And Martin reached back out to me again and was wanting us to do the was it Free for All? Was that right? What was it called?
Yeah.
Yeah, Free for All tour with Pigface. And so but the caveat was he wanted us to change our name back to Voodoo so that way he could sell merchandise, which makes it's smart business
Makes
sense.
sense. Right. I got you.
So
Yeah.
we did that for a while, and then we just we keep going away and come back, and then me and my wife Corinne and Jimmy was doing 30 Year Sick as well. 30 Year Sick is female fronted, kind of PG Harvey meets Nine Inch Nails, I guess the best way I can explain it.
Nice.
We still currently do that too. But that's kind of how I got involved with Jimmy and with Michael. We used to go to a local show. I don't know if we were playing with you that night or not, if you were just there to watch you play.
We played.
Did we play together at your first show? This was your first show. You had
It was one of the first ones. Oh, the first time you seen me play.
Yes.
I was
Oh,
playing at
yeah,
the
the
yeah,
Steeple?
people, yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw we were watching this guy because we were always watching, local bands and new starts or whatever, just to see who we can, play shows with. And being Korean, we're watching him hard. And I was like, that dude could sing.
Yeah, he
It
can.
was just like he was just a laptop on the floor, him singing, and I'm like, he could sing. He's like, and it like instantly made me think of like Mike Patton. I'm a huge Faith No More fan. I'm like, he could pull off some Mike Patton and it would be spot on. So we instantly like keyed up on him, and we've kind of been watching him kind of branch into multiple things
Right.
same time. But we've just known each other for a long time, and I wanted to play with people that I don't need somebody like me. I need somebody like him.
Gotcha. And
We
he
don't
needs
need
you.
3,500 songs that aren't complete.
Nice. Well, Jimmy, let's hear from you, man. What's your story?
Well, I've been playing bass for quite a long time, and I was playing in a three-piece kind of improv jazz trio with members of Voodoo, and I think it was like a Wednesday night. They just called and was just like, "Hey, come down and do this." And so I met Chad that Wednesday. I had my bass with me. I recorded a couple tracks that night for the Haitian Hate Gods EP, and then it was just from then on. It's just been a partnership. I mean, wherever he goes, I'll go with him if he'll take me. You know what I mean? Basically,
That seems to keep happening.
I mean,
think
yeah,
you're
I
in good
mean,
shape by now.
yeah, I mean,
track
it's just-
record's good.
I was a fan of the band before I was in the band. So that, it was, kind of a big deal for me, a much bigger deal for me than it was for them. You know what I mean? And so yeah, and Chad is the catalyst to everything that goes on in this little circle. I mean, I know we keep tooting his horn, but I mean it really is a fact,
Right.
and I love, this type of music. It has always been my first love. I mean, I play around town, in some other bands now that,
Right.
are complete 180-degree opposite of this. But this was always like, this is what I grew up listening to. I was a skater punk kid, and, and so,
were.
yeah, I mean, and it was just, Chad made a lot of my dreams come true. And
Yeah.
so I walked through a wall for him, I mean, and as long as he'll have me, I'll stay, I mean, and the music's challenging, and it's, it's super fun, there's an element of showmanship that goes along with our live shows and things like that, in my other bands, you really can't, it's a lot more conservative, and you kind of have to sit there.
Right.
With Chad, you can just, you got to move or you're done.
Right. Well, you said jazz. You said jazz band, so I like jazz too. I mean, I listen to all kinds of stuff. Really, I listen to all kinds of stuff, and I've told people on my podcast before, my music is estrogen driven. I listen to a lot of female artists. Love
Right.
listening to women. But with that said, when I heard what Shannon shared on Facebook, I went to your Bandcamp, popped it in, and I'm a 55-year-old guy, and you guys took me back to the sound of and and I'm not trying to insult you guys in any way. This is what it made me feel like. It felt like I was listening to some old Depeche Mode, some a little bit of U2. I got some of those vibes
Yeah.
from that music, and I was like, "Damn, dude, this is fucking real." I mean,
Well,
and I
that's a
loved
hell
it.
of a compliment, really.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean,
It's really weird too. I would say that happened by accident. I really, because the demos when Chad and I, because this started with Chad said, I'm gonna give you a song and let's see what happens. And so I recorded, I reimagined the song, put the vocals on and added a few things. But for the most part, the song is as it was, just reimagined. And I gave him some vocals and they were okay. But I was like, I want to try and mess around with this and do this differently in such a way that feels right to me, because I had really been leaning heavily on like the alternative pop music of the late 80s.
Yeah,
Peter Gabriel, Depeche Mode is personally my all-time favorite
I
band.
could feel some
And
of that.
lyrically, Martin Gore is it just that spoke to me when I was like 15. Like, so
Yeah.
there is always going to have that element to my contribution to this. I can't speak for
Dude,
them.
I loved, and I even felt a little bit of the Cure. I mean, it was
well,
Yeah, that's Chad. You know, and it's like it's weird because I would say we all like heavy music, but I also like very dark and heavy metal. So I
yeah.
do kind of try to incorporate a bit of horror and darkness into that while making it kind of romantic and kind of beautiful in that sense where it sort of lures you into something that's maybe greater than ourselves, you know?
Oh yeah, man, I could hear this shit on a soundtrack easily on a on a movie soundtrack. I tried to pick a favorite song, and I'm not blowing smoke. I never do that about music, but I couldn't pick one. I liked all of them, and
Yeah,
it was
they're all kind of neat and they're all kind of cool in their own way.
yeah, they are. And I went back and forth, you know, and I want to get into some of these songs specifically, but before I do that, how did you guys come up with the name Swim the Witch? I'm really curious about the origin of that name.
Yeah, right there. That's a Chad question.
Well, I watch a lot of documentaries on, just folklore and things like that. And there was some show that was on witches, and they were talking about when they would dunk them in the water, it was called swimming the witch.
Ah,
And so I was like, I wanted it to be more like in my mind romantically, I'm like trying to give the witches a voice, you know what I mean? Like it
right.
was just whole, like instead of just being let's be the, I don't know, the protagonist. Is that
Mhm.
the right word?
Yeah.
Instead of the antagonist.
Yeah,
With
Yeah, you
that,
want to be the hero instead of the villain, right?
sure.
and I just the imagery alone, because all the songs are kind of dark anyway, so it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something, there's a lot to unpack there, and I think that.
Yeah, well, I thought it was super unique in you know, I'm going to do a little shameless plug right here, and it caught my attention because my latest book is called The Piano Witch,
Oh,
Cool.
and yeah, and that's that's the cover. It came out last Halloween, and it's really about a witch that's cursed. She's trapped inside of a piano, and this little girl's taking piano lessons on this possessed piano and tries to help the witch out. So,
Oh,
you guys want to?
that sounds really cool.
that sounds awesome.
Well, I got the idea from a podcast guest. She's the lead singer of a New Zealand band called French for Rabbits. I had to ask her what that name was about. But without boring the audience too much, she told me a story when she was a kid. She used to take piano lessons on her father's piano, and she could see the image of a witch in the wood of the piano, and it
Mhm.
always frightened her. And I, being the writer I am, I said, right on the podcast, you can listen to it. I said, can I use that? And she said, yeah. So
Yeah.
I wrote a book and I gave her a credit, and I sent her one, and her dad held up a copy in front of his house in New Zealand, and I thought it was pretty freaking awesome. So, when you talk to creative people, you get ideas, and that was
Yeah.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we become inspired from one another. Exactly.
Exactly. Now, let's get into some of these songs. And I know you set me straight. Michael, you're the lyricist, so you wrote the lyrics, and I'm a writer, and I'm always curious about other writers. Tell me what went into Forgery. I love that was my favorite for a few minutes until Cry Out became my favorite, and then anyway, they all became my favorite at one point. But let's talk about Forgery for a minute.
Right. So I guess the main thing I wanted to try and do going into this project is to try and keep things as base level and as real to what is close to me as possible, at least with some of the subject matter. Some of it has that fantasy element, but specifically for that song, I remember writing that specifically about my former job and just the deception and this weird agreement, this partnership of something that is just corrupt. And it's sort of
Yeah.
like the acceptance and the realization that you're being lied to, but also at the same time realizing you have to submit yourself to the lies in order to survive. So there's like this weird element of sort of just coming to grips with the fact that you know, we're never going to see eye to eye, and I understand that the reason why, you know, our relationship exists is because you need me. However, I know that you don't like me, and this partnership is false. You know, so that's kind of where Forgery came from. Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, I mean, it's the first title on the EP, and it immediately caught my attention, and that's when I got those Depeche Mode vibes. I was like, whoa, this is real. This is some
Definitely.
good
There's
stuff.
some
Yeah.
songs of faith and devotion in that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what did you think, Chad, when you got these gems of lyrics from this guy? You know, I
Oh,
mean,
it was. I heard his scratch vocal, but I was like, "That's good. Print it. Let's go on to the next one." He's like, "Well, that was just a scratch vocal," and I was like, "Really?" But it would. His vocals
So
gives me goosebumps.
It's so
Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's just there's certain things, like the way he phrases things and his melodies. You know, it gives me goosebumps, and it's cool for me because it makes me not feel like, and it's gonna sound weird, but I'm not a part of it. You know, it's like I don't listen to it like, okay, this is my band. I can hear it like I'm like, man, I wish I was in that band. I'm like, oh wait, I am. Yeah, you know, just
Yeah.
weird. Like it takes you out of it.
You're listening to it with a fan's ear. Yeah. And
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
yeah, you get a little starstruck by your own bandmate.
Yeah.
happens to me regularly. Really does. I mean, ever
Yeah.
since like I said, I was a fan of Voodoo before being in the band, and there's been many times that I make a mistake because I'm just staring, like watching everybody while I'm playing.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
kind of get swept away. Like I can't even believe this is happening.
It's surreal.
It really is.
It's strange.
And then
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, man, yeah, it's cool.
Well, another song I want to talk about, and Chad, I really want to get your take on it, since you did the music, is War of Love. When it first opened in my ears, I immediately went to, and you guys might think I'm crazy for saying this, but I immediately went to Sunday Bloody Sunday for you too.
Mhm.
That's the vibe I got when I heard that opening. But tell me your perspective when you put the music together for that particular song.
I think I listen to a lot of, I would say, pre-pop album U2, and I'm sure that you can't listen to something a lot and it not come in. I like the vibe of like I think I Will Follow is another one that's is good and charging song, and it's kind of the same. Anytime there's delays involved, it kind of either goes toward the edge or it goes towards something else. But it's they wrote good songs, and it's not just using delay for delay's sake. It's using delay to create, like, it's like you've got two instruments. You've got your guitar and then you've got the delay playing off of what you just played. And I think that's kind of my go-to thing.
Mhm.
But the Edge was really good at it. Robert Smith, of course, is very good at it. Daniel Ash from Love and Rockets is really good at it. It's just kind of things I've always kind of drove to, and I don't like to use delay as a like for a certain like a feature. I'd like to use it for the whole song, and but yeah, that's kind of where that came from. And he, of course, changed. He redid a lot of stuff. I mean, the songs were a lot more, I want to say simple, but just more layery.
Mhm.
Starts real simple and then it kind of ends up this Nine Inch Nails ending kind of thing. That's kind of been my forte. And he changes it up to where, because he needs a vocal bed to sing over, so I really don't know what he's going to do with it. He
Right.
might hear, what I think is a chorus is a good verse lyric, so he changes it around, and it's really unique to hear what he does with it because of that.
Yeah, I think what Chad does with delay is he creates an emotion with it, like a bed of atmosphere that kind of puts you into something emotionally into the song. Our music is definitely has that, unintentionally has sort of a soundtrack sort of vibe to it. Just to give it some emotion, kind of lift you, a little bit. And those my favorite pop songs have that. If you're able
Yeah.
to have some very like uh intellectual, maybe subject matter or something that maybe if you are somebody that follows lyrics, that where you are actually getting something from this, but where you can also invoke an emotion and a feeling and really just take people away from their daily life. Like, I mean, that's
Oh
kind
yeah.
of,
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah,
yeah.
that's kind of the vibe I got. Like I said, I could hear this on the soundtrack for sure, and that's definitely a compliment. It's really good. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm writing a novel now, and you guys have been on rotation. You put me in a good mindset to write. I listen to a bunch of music, but I've been having you guys just over and over and over, listening to these songs.
Thank
So
you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Jimmy, I'm going to jump back to you for a second. I'm going to ask all the guys the same question, but you intrigued me a little bit. You said you played in jazz bands, and I do like jazz, and I listen to a lot of Sade, and I love Sade, man, love her.
Oh yeah, well,
Um,
Some beautiful
yeah,
stuff.
oh yeah. So Jimmy, tell me about your influences, how you got into jazz, and who you listen to coming up.
uh, well, I started playing bass because my best friend was a bass player. Okay, and they were kind of in a band, and I just wanted to always be a part of something, So I was just like, somebody gave me a bass, and so he would go to bass lessons and then come and call me on the telephone. This is, way back before cell phones or anything like that. He would call
Right.
me on the telephone and give me the tablature of what he got. And so I was like getting secondhand free bass lessons. Finally, my parents gave in and was like, okay, you can do this. And he like I said, my friend was in a band with, like, I'm from Harrisburg, so it's kind of a small town back then, and your group of friends you did everything with, like, and I still had the same friends I was in kindergarten with. I mean, it was a really close knit community. Well,
Right.
he got killed when we were the weekend that right after we graduated from high school, and so just a natural progression. I then became the bass player of a band that I was a fan of,
Yeah.
And so I was really into punk rock and to, the post-punk scene and stuff like that, but they were more into the Dead and all of this other stuff. So I
Right.
just kind of gradually went from playing like that, like post-punk type music to jam band type music.
Right.
And then, from there, it just, you wanted to if you're playing that type of music, your goal is just to get as good as you can get, so you can basically just show off, and that's basically what you're doing, the whole
Right.
time.
Right.
And so that's what really started me into like getting into jazz players and things like that. Stanley, Stanley Clark,
Yep.
Victor Wooten, Jocko. I mean, you just get into all of that, but that's really never was really my jam. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
Right.
I just kind of fell into that scene because that's who I started playing with. And then I got kind of known into that scene, and then it just kind of gradually,
Went
went
from there.
deeper. And so then therein being in the little jazz trio, which was just mostly improv jam band garbage that we get up there the night before we have a show. It's like, what are we gonna
Yeah.
what key
Don't
we can start
don't
this
s-
in? And
don't say garbage, man. Garbage
all
is an
right.
awesome band.
But oh no, I'm down with Miss Manson.
Yeah, I'm messing with you. I'm messing with
But
you.
so we would just get up there and improv the whole night, for like 3 hours, just whatever. And a lot of it was good, a lot of it was garbage. And no offense, I mean, but a lot of it
I
was
know.
good. But they just happened to be in voodoo,
Right.
and I was always like on the fringe, like, oh man, I really dig that voodoo stuff, like, yeah, what, and then Waylon, the drummer, worked with me, so he would take off from work and go on tour with these guys, and I'm just hammering away, going, man, my drummer's out on tour with another, you know what I mean? And then
Right.
then something happened, and I still don't know all the circumstances, but then I was asked to come down, and then that's how it led me to this. And like I said, it's a dream come true, because this is more the type of music that I listen to. They
Gotcha.
say, when you first start dating, and the music you're listening to while you first start dating is the music that you'll carry with you through the rest of your life. And that's true,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I mean, that's how it ended up here. I mean,
Well,
they
that's
called, and I didn't even really know anything about this band.
right.
And Chad called me one day and was like, hey man, I got this little project. You want to come do a couple bass tracks for it? And I'm like, well, if he calls, I'm going.
You're gonna
You know
do
what
it.
I mean?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
that every time he's ever called me, I'm like, all right, I'll be there in an hour or whatever. And
Nice.
so we came, and I came over and recorded it. And that was really the first time. I mean, I think I had some of these tracks from old time, because some of the tracks are some stuff that you written a long time ago that he gave, I have tons of music that he sent me. I couldn't tell you if I'd ever heard it before in my life, but
Right.
Because you
I
never
would,
know what we're going to play next.
yeah. And I heard it, and I was just like, holy shit, really?
Yep.
And I don't even really think there was any vocals much on it then at all. And so I was just like, okay. And then they sent me some stuff a while after it was kind of finished, and I was like, man, that's badass. I mean, and I was really proud to be a part of it. But then everything went quiet, and I play with another band in Charlotte called Red Eye Gemini, and it's more of an Americana type music. So I was
Right.
really focusing in on that, because we were gigging a lot, recording the record and everything. And then they called me like 2 weeks out. They're like, hey, you remember that stuff that you recorded? And I was like, no. And he was like, Swim the Witch. And I was like, okay. Oh yeah. He goes, well, we got a show in Texas in like 2 weeks. You think you can do it? And I was like,
Sure.
Which is a huge venue. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
6,000 capacity.
for us, like
Oh.
an unknown band
The
that
first show,
no
they're like,
one knows about.
Right.
It was very weird.
yeah, but I was like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I can do it. And so now here we are.
Rest is history.
Yeah, man.
Well, Chad, I'm going to move to you. Same question. What were some of your influences coming in? And you touched on it a little bit, but what I really want to get into it a little bit more. What were some of your influences coming up? What got you into the music business? Who did you listen to? And you kind of told me how you got together with Swim the Witch, but I just want a little expand on that a little more. Who did you listen to coming up, and who inspired you?
Well, I think when I was a freshman in high school, I was a skater. We were all skaters growing up,
Yeah.
and to be in a small town, you don't have access to alternative music. It's just whatever's on the classic rock station or whatever. And but then we watch these skate videos. Well, I would, and you would hear things like songs in the skate videos. You're like, what song is that? What song is that? And so you start doing research in the magazines and whatnot to find out, like, well, this is what the skaters in California listen to. Therefore, if I'm going to skate in North Carolina, I should listen to the same thing, so I'll be good like they are. It was this
Right.
weird, like,
yeah,
if
that's
you have the
how it
right
started.
board and the right song and the right ramp, you can do those tricks.
I mean, honestly, skateboarding is the root to all
it
of
really is,
I agree.
because he
I
was a
agree.
skater too. So
Yeah.
it still
it.
is.
It really is.
Nice.
So I'd hear that, and so I'd go into my local little podunk record store, and they would get whatever I wanted if I ordered it. And I would just walk in, I'd be like, I would like to order Bauhaus, please. And they're like, okay. And then they'd get the cassette in for me, and I'd go pick it up, and but that's kind of what started it. And then also, like, 120 Minutes on MTV was a huge influence, because I got to see, because there's not always a lot of pictures, in back in the day of bands. So you didn't really know what was around it. But when you see the videos, you're like, oh my goodness, this is weird and awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you just kind of fall into that thing. So I listened to a lot of like I was a huge Cult fan growing up. The Cure, the Smiths,
PIL.
Cotton Twins, Sisters of Mercy, uh, you know, Jane's Addiction. It all kind of, back then we didn't really have labels for it. Like I also listened to a lot of punk bands too, like Minor Threat and Fugazi and Misfits and whatnot, just because it was part of the skate culture. And I never
Right.
really knew that, oh, this is, I mean, I knew what punk rock was, but it was everything else just like alternative.
Right.
There was no
Right.
industrial or goth or whatever. It was just alternative. And so that's kind of, and of course, like U2 was probably the most transitional for me as far as like here's mainstream music, here's what I was skating to, and then U2 was right in the middle of it because
Right.
it fit on the radio, but it also would fit on a playlist with Bauhaus or Love and Rockets. So especially the early U2 stuff.
I would stand in my front yard with like during race season because my house is right by the racetrack in Concord, Harrisburg, and have U2 jamming on like a jam box, and me and my friends have fake instruments out doing concerts with U2 shit.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
Just
I rented a U2 live at Red Rock from in Colorado. So it was like 2 videos that I rented all the time to the point to where the video store person said, if you just buy these, it will be cheaper. One was U2 live at Red Rocks and the other was Prince Purple Rain.
yeah.
So
Oh
I
man.
would just over and over and over would watch those 2 back to back, and the U2 at Red Rocks was kind of just it felt, I could feel the emotion in it. I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you haven't, you should. It's phenomenal. But yeah, so I just that was kind of my start into it, and I didn't really love industrial music, to be honest, when it first came out. And I had some friends that were doing more industrial music, and they're like, "Well, you should play some guitar on it." So I put what Robert Smith would play on guitar if he was in ministry, or if he was
All
in
right.
a band or whatever. And
Okay.
of course, the industrial guys are like, "Well, you're so creative." I'm like, "Not really. It's just
It's you though.
I'm
It's you.
transplanting this, and I
Yes.
make it fit."
Yeah.
Right.
It's not some weird Joe Satriani goes electronic and it's doesn't really fit thing.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it all started. And usually it's just been 1 or 2 people getting this song together, and then I'd find preferably jazz people to go on tour with because I know they can play.
Yeah.
First and foremost. Also, I don't have to worry about them trying to cross promote, their own band,
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And while they're on
Yeah.
tour, they are kind of hyper focused on what we're doing. And then also it makes sound checks insanely fun because you see these people come in and they're just like, and they hear them just riffing on something, and they're like, you guys can play.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
guys
That's
can actually
happened more.
play.
You're real musicians.
Yeah,
You
that,
guys are like real musicians.
yeah.
You're
I'm
really
not
real
gonna say who said that
musicians.
to us, but somebody
Yeah,
on
yeah.
tour did say that to us.
All right, Michael, we're gonna roll around to you. Same question. Who are some of your influences coming up, and who did you gravitate toward? Probably
Well,
very similar stuff, but
it's it's so I grew up, my parents were missionaries, and they were very, 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 very strict as far as what I could and could not do, and music fell into that.
Yeah.
Music became important to me because it was unobtainable. Everything that I learned about music came from my older brother. He was 12 years older than I was, and we were both wild. But he was wilder, and so my music came from his collection. When he would leave, I would take his music and I would go into my room and listen to what he had. So the Cult, Depeche Mode,
Right.
Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Echo and the Bunnymen, Yellow Man, Eka Mouse, anything, any kind
Wow.
of music that was different and eclectic. That is what I grew up on. So music has always been a sponge for me, and you know, it's something that's very important. I feel like it's what makes me be able to communicate with people, because in real life I'm not very I am not very social. It's very hard for me, especially as I've gotten older, to be able to find ways to connect with people, and music is that one mutual bond. But yeah, I mean, the lyrical content of probably like Martin Gore's playing became like the soundtrack of my early teens. Though as I got into about 15 or 16, all of my friends were into straight edge hardcore. So I grew up also skateboarding. There was a kid in my neighborhood named Will Goodyear. He was an amazing drummer. And he was in a local band called Prayer for Cleansing. They were like straight edge hardcore. And they later changed their name to Between the Buried and Me, which went on to be on like a major label. But Will and I had a punk rock band called Jaundice, and we were influenced by things like Minor Threat, The Descendants, TSOL, just punk rock. You know,
Right.
it's just kids having fun. I think the guy who owned the Milestone at that time said we were the worst band he'd ever heard. That we were literally the most horrible thing
That is saying something.
that had ever happened. And coincidentally, I think we only played one show, and some guy broke his leg. He like jumped off a chair and like pierced his leg in half. We had to stop. And so that was the
Damn.
Jaundice. I don't know. You know, I didn't really get into the whole
John just never turns out.
straight edge movement personally. So I got more into rave music. So my forte is more in production. I'm good with synthesizers. I'm good with machines. I can sing, but I feel better. I feel better in front of equipment.
The first time I heard this dude's voice, literally, I stopped my vehicle. Seriously,
I paused it when I listened to it.
I mean, I was in a work truck with my partner, and you know, I'm like, hey man, check out. They just sent this over. We're gonna check it out because he's a really good friend of mine. I'm like, you know, and he's really supportive of my music. So I was like, let's listen to it together. And then I think it was Cry Out, I think is what you sent me.
The first one.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, we have to do this at all costs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was blown. And anybody that I let hear, or anybody that I know personally that hears this voice, they're just like, what are you guys doing?
Well, that's the thing, getting it out there and letting people listen to it, because I know Shannon through our garbage admiration. So she's a huge garbage nut, and so am I. And she also likes this New Zealand singer that I love too, Jen Wigmore. So we talk about her, and she shared that, and I went to your Bandcamp and I listened to it, and I clicked pause. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I was like, this is good.
Shout out to her, by the
Yeah.
way, because she booked Angels on Acid a long time ago. I stayed at her house, and I met this very special cat there who was like this giant cat that we all befriended, and I think he passed. I think his name was Pepe. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but Shannon, yeah, she was cool enough to just hook us up together, and many thanks to her.
Well, I didn't know she was a DJ. Like I said, the only way I knew her was through the garbage stuff and the Jen stuff. So I didn't really know her on a personal level like you guys did. But then she told me, oh yeah, I used to DJ from blah, 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 to blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, I should have you on the podcast. She said,
Yep,
yeah.
yeah, she would book bands and everything.
Yeah. So I was like, cool. I mean, I love finding that out. So I'm going to ask each of you guys, and maybe you don't, maybe they're all your babies, but do each of you have a favorite song on Ritual? Is there one that sticks out above the rest for any of you, or are they all kind of on the same level?
For me, it's probably Enchanter. I think was that the first song we ever did? I think it was.
Yeah,
because it was right around Halloween, and I was like scrambling to try and get a demo to you. So I think Enchanter was the most natural feeling. There was no expectation for me. It just flowed. It felt good.
That's the one with the Harvest Moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
It really
that's
is.
like our ballad.
Yeah, I
we
mean,
didn't
I
really
love
think
the bass line to it. The bass line's driving and it's super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one the most live because I don't have to do that much, and I get to take a break and kind of look around, and because some of the other songs are like I'm just constantly changing pedals and changing sound and whatnot. So I get to take a breather in that song a little bit. Plus it's just a little more simple, and I get to kind of like pull into the industrial roots a little bit at the end of it.
So it sounds like we got 3 for 3 on Enchanter. All right.
Yeah, and then, definitely. I like Cry Out too.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's the one that you hear it one time and you're singing that shit all day long. It's just like, you're just like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're all they all definitely get stuck in your head though.
Yeah.
That's what's good. The hook and everything about them, it works. The hook works.
What's funny about Cry Out was it was right when he first started, giving me some vocals on it. And there was one day I was like mowing, and how some days you're just like you hear a melody in your song in your head, and you're just kind of like singing along with it. And you're like, what song is that? And then you have to like, deprogram it to figure out like what song it is and who. And then when I found out that the one that was in my head was the one he was singing, and I was part of it, I was like, it was like the coolest feeling.
Yeah,
'Cause
it is.
usually it's something else like a Pet Shop Boys song or something,
Yeah.
But it was actually
Domino dancing.
it was just something. It was in my head, and I didn't because it was so fresh. I didn't really identify what it was, but yeah, it was pretty cool. Kudos
Now
to
you guys
that vocal melody.
talked about playing live. And I love going to see live music. So tell me about your experience under Swim the Witch, playing live. I don't know if you guys have a lot of shows under your belt, live shows.
Well, we've done one show
Okay.
that didn't go bad at all. It was great.
No.
But I'm pretty sure Chad was. We were both kind of worried about it. We just sort of crashed into an idea of trying to do this. I feel like it's important to note that the whole idea of even releasing this music was sort of random because, to truth be told, this was written a while ago and we sat on it. And
Because of COVID.
yeah,
Mainly.
and we waited and just one day he was like, "What do you want to do a show?" And I was like, "Sure." I was like, "We have nothing to promote." I was like, "You want to release the album?" "Sure." So no promotion. We released it. Did the show, big show for us. It went good.
Yeah, it was like 800 or so.
So,
Like 800 people our first show.
but we know
That's a lot of people,
Not for
man.
us, but there was 800 people there where we played, I should say.
Yeah,
Well, that's still a lot of people.
We
Yeah.
kept
For
their
us.
attention for a little bit though.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot at one of those shows, man. 'Cause there's a lot
Yeah.
going on.
I've played to one person, I've played to nobody. I've played to the guy cleaning the toilets. Like, no one here is trying to act like even though we're seasoned, maybe them more than us, we do put it in perspective. Everything, I mean, in music, it's all about the grind, but truth be told, there's only that 1% that really get to live that beautiful lush life that people think that musicians live. It's a grind. We all work day jobs. He's just naturally gifted in that way, where he's just a writer in that way. I think we're all gifted in our own skill set, and that's kind of what makes it work for us.
Yeah, well, this woman over my shoulder that I adore, Jen Wigmore, she's big in New Zealand, and she was really big, back in the like 2009, 2010, and she's had stuff on TV commercials and things. But when I go see her here, she's playing small places. Like I went and saw her at the New Brooklyn Tavern. There's just a couple hundred people in there, and it's blowing my mind because I fanboy over her all the time. So I'm like, "Won't you fucking people to understand who this is?"
Yeah,
So,
man. Yeah.
yeah.
Because you're listening to it for more than the surface level. I don't know that a lot of people do that anymore.
Right. That's
you
it.
really have to have a dear love for music and creativity and art, and you see there's amazing music everywhere. It just never gets touched. I mean, no one ever knows about it.
Exactly. So, man, what I want to do now before we end the podcast, and you guys have been amazing. I want you guys to promote anything you want to promote. I'm going to put your Bandcamp link below. Guys, go out and pick up the CD for sure. I think the minimum donation is $10, but you can donate more if you'd like to help support Swim the Witch and their music. But if you plop $10 down, they'll send you this cool CD. And as long as they have these stickers, I'm sure they'll send you one of these too. But anyway, I'm going to be quiet and let you guys just promote away. Tell everyone where they can find you and what they can get. Maybe I did it already.
Well, we're on all major social platforms. So you probably the best thing to do if you want to just find everything, you just go to our website. I know that sounds so old school, but just because there's links to everything, so rather than spilling off a bunch of URLs, if I'm not mistaken, it's Swim the Witch band at no swimthewitch.org. Swimthewitchband.org. Maybe I should look.
Yeah,
Well,
it's-
what I'm going to do,
Something
guys,
there.
I'll put links in the
yeah, do that.
in
That
the
would-
description below. So you
Yeah.
know they'll send me the links. I'll put the links in the description below.
Isn't that
So
terrible?
Well, it's new. It's new. We
it's
don't,
all right. It's okay.
We don't have an excuse.
No.
and we're going to start. We've got a YouTube channel too, so we're going to start. Like we're. Can I tell them we're in the process of recording
You
a
can tell
song?
them what-
Okay, we're in the process of recording more
Okay.
at the moment, and that's in fact why we're all here today. Is because I'm gonna after this is over, I'm gonna go put some guitar stuff down. But we're gonna try to record like video the process
Mhm.
going forward, and it would be a good chance for anybody to kind of hear what's coming down the pipe. And then when it actually does come down the pipe, you can kind of hear how it changed and that kind of thing. So to me, it's being a musician and just being into gear and everything. I like to know what they're using, what their setup is, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a behind the scenes
Right.
look at that.
Swimthewitch.org.
Okay. Well, I'll put that in the link in the links.
That's so sad. It's like I gotta look at the URL. Yeah, swimthewitch.org.
It will be in the links below. So all you gotta do is click it. And before we end the podcast, I ask a lot of musicians the same question. I'll ask each of you, and then we'll kind of end it on that. Living or dead, who would you most like to collaborate with? Who would be your dream artist to collaborate with? And you can go in any order, whoever wants to start.
Man,
Yeah, I say the toughest
there are
question
so
from
many
you.
new artists out right now, though. Too. I mean,
Well, you can give me a living and
Oh,
dead. It
oh,
doesn't have to
right.
be one or the other.
Mhm.
yeah, that is an overwhelming question.
Mhm.
If I could be in any band ever,
Yeah,
it would be between Jane's Addiction or The Cure, 100%. That's it.
it's not a bad choice.
I
Not
mean,
bad.
that would be. See, this is the playing with Chad is my opportunity to play the music that I like. Most of the time I play music, it's not really what I listen to. You know what I mean? I mean,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So I'm probably gonna get some flack for this second part. Dead, I would say, unfortunately, I would have liked to work with Sinead O'Connor.
Oh yeah.
Living, probably Miley Cyrus.
She's got some
He's
nasty-
not
she,
kidding.
She's got some nasty samp lines, dog.
He's not kidding.
Dude, and I was listening to something the other day in a Britney. I was at the roller skating rink with my wife, and a Britney Spears song. I think it's "Oops, I Did It Again." That has got the nastiest synth in it, dude. I was like,
I
what?
do like that song. Actually.
Seriously.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not
got a cool chord.
If you take the
structure to it.
vocals out
I'm
and
not
arrange them-
kidding. I'll stand
He's
behind
not joking. Yeah.
just because
Yeah,
I don't know. I think she's a very passionate singer. I just think she's surrounded by a bunch of yes men that don't know. And I was like, if she wanted to come to the dark side and
Well,
write
I
her
will
some
t-
music that she
I
can
will
sing
tell
really, really
you-
well.
a guilty pleasure song I love by Miley Cyrus is "Do My Thing," and I don't care. So whatever, but go
Good. So
listen
you
to
get it. You get it. We get it.
Yeah,
I'll pull you in. If she calls me, I'm gonna call you. And,
All
and
right.
you can like write the book about the
the encounter.
experience.
That's what it would be, an encounter.
All right, Michael, what you got?
Oh, it's too hard. I'm gonna narrow it down to two, just based on like most important to my musical upbringing. It would probably come down to either Depeche Mode or Ministry for two different reasons. They're both just as important. I met my wife at a Ministry show. I grew up on industrial. My brother turned me on to Ministry. And then there's this whole weird 5 degrees with Chad and him being on Martin's label. So the importance of Ministry is extremely important to me on so many levels. Depeche Mode from a writing standpoint, especially lyrically, if I could sit down with Martin and take Dave's place and sing a Depeche Mode song, maybe add a few little synth lines or something, that I'd be in dream world. That would be pretty cool. I just want to do it one time because
Yeah.
that's how I learned how to sing, by sing. I didn't realize Martin and Dave sang. I thought it was one guy. until I was like, how are they doing that with their voice? You know, it took me a while because I only had the tapes to realize they were doing these beautiful harmonies.
And
So that it
we're old
has
enough to
probably
watch them grow
Depeche Mode and
up,
Ministry
you know what I
equally
mean?
for
Kind
different
of like
reasons.
when they first started with young schoolboys, and then by the end they're wearing the bondage gear.
Well,
they took
Yeah,
and the music got
heroin
better
took
as
a
they
weird
got
turn
dark.
with those guys. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, they did.
But no, dude,
It made their music
their
better,
dynamics, the way that behind the wheel, the way that song just builds and
built like a
builds
trance
and
song.
builds and
Mhm.
builds. I mean, that's if whenever I'm at home making solo music, like, cause you know, and it will never be heard, but that is what I base
Yeah.
the formula on. That one song, because it is just such a powerful build, man. It's insane.
Alan doesn't get enough credit either for Depeche Mode. He was what gave them that sound. And I think it's very important to remember, because I think he's just under, he doesn't get the credit.
It's under the radar.
He
Yeah.
was the glue. I mean, he
Yeah.
produced Nitzer Ebb. He was an amazing producer. So it's hard to say which guy is the most important out of them.
Well, that's like Butch Vig, man. He's not just a drummer for Garbage.
He recorded everybody. That's right.
Everybody, yeah.
I'm not sure or not if I'm actually kin to Alan or not. I need to probably check because there's not many of us.
That'd be sick.
I mean, there's really not that many Wilders.
Will you ask him if we can stay at his house?
I will ask him. I'm friends with him on Facebook. That's just the best thing.
I'll sleep outside. I can sleep on the porch or something.
Well, I tell you, man, like I said, the first note I wrote down from the first word I heard from you, I wrote Depeche Mode. That's the first thing I wrote.
Yeah. It's just kind of naturally it's how I learned how to write music.
Yeah.
It's just everything. So it's very important to probably indirectly to our creative process, whether it's intentional or not.
Oh no. Well, it was just, I just drew comparisons. It's not Depeche Mode. It's not the same. They're not copying anybody, but the vibe is there. So the vibe is there, and it's it's really good stuff.
Thank you,
Well,
Charles.
thank you guys for being on the podcast. Hope I can get you a few more listeners, and I'm definitely going to support you. And when if I can go to a show, I will go to a show. I'll drag my wife with me, and we'll check you out for sure. And
Yeah, we're not far from you. Yeah, we're not.
No. I'm in North
We'll
Augusta.
probably
Find us some places to play down there your way, and we'll make a road.
Well,
I'm just saying.
We have a record store that actually books bands, and they have a ton of bands coming through Augusta, Georgia. It's
Cool.
Grant Ski Records. So, I can get you in touch with Evan, and if you guys want to come this way, all the business side is his stuff, but he promotes bands, and he's got them coming through every week. I'm going to see a show next Saturday, a band called Lighthearted. It's a 2-girl band, but he's got all genres, all different kinds of music coming through there. But anyway, I digress.
Thank you.
Me and him
Charles.
played in Augusta a couple of times at was it Atmospheres? Is that what it was called? It was like they would go to this like weird like improv place and just have this like
it was
goth
a
night.
theater. It was a theater.
And it would just happen every so often, like maybe once a month.
Was
if
it
that.
Atmospheres?
I think it's called Atmospheres. But yeah, it was the
was
Le
in-
Cat Noir or something.
Yeah, Le Cat Noir.
Okay. Yeah. But
Black Cat.
The Black
yeah, well,
Yeah, right.
that was a big deal, wasn't it?
Mhm.
That was kind of a big club, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
There's there's a Black Cat in DC too.
Yeah.
there
What
was.
did we? No, there's a Alley Cat in Richmond. That was a big club.
Sorry,
Well,
we're nerding out.
It's all good. I'll send Evan your contact info, and if you guys talk and work something out, that's
we
fine.
would like
But
to do that, Charles.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
cool. I'll send it to him after the podcast. And I am Charles Campbell, small town horror author. My latest book is called The Piano Witch. You can find all my stuff at valleyboypublications.com. We have a Horror 421, the podcast Facebook page, also host a horror podcast. And we have Backstage 421, the podcast, the Facebook page. You can check us out there. Charles Campbell author on Instagram. And that's all we got today. Thank you again, guys. I appreciate you joining. And we'll see you next
It
time
was
on
our
Backstage.
pleasure. Thank you, Charles.
Well,
We
thank
appreciate it
you.
very much.
And that's it for this week's episode of Backstage 421, the Musicians Only podcast. If I can talk today. Thank you, guys.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Backstage 421, the musicians only podcast. Be sure to tune in for the next episode. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Listener support links can be found below. Thank you for your support.